Hello friends, welcome to my channel Sushant Chess Spice. Today we are at the next topic, that is the endgame studies explained. We are at the 34th position of our topic. In today's position we will see how a bishop can dominate the knight and we will see the bishop's power over the knight. So this position is white to play and win. Material is very less and white has to be very careful that black should not be able to sacrifice his knight for the pawn. So right now black is threatening knight e2. So the only move of course is e4. The pawn goes as ahead as possible, bishop gives check, and now bishop and pawn will try to block the king, and also the bishop has to try to tie down the knight. King b6, king is heading towards the pawn, quite natural, and now comes the very important move of the position, bishop c4. The bishop is very well placed, fourth square from the knight. So from the knight we will count 1, 2, 3, 4 and it will block all the places towards the bishop. So now a2, b3, d3 and e2 all are blocked. Black has two approaches. He can go kc5, which is the main line, or he can play kc6. After kc6 it looks like e5 is bad because nd3, bd3, kd5 and the pawn is attacked, but here king can come to f4 and support the pawn. So after e5, nd3 blunder because bd3, kd5, kf4 pawn would be protected, and any move like king d7 allows the king to come to f4. King not only protects the pawn, but now king wants to go to e3, d2, take the knight. d3 and e2 are protected by the king, so king can take the knight on e2. If bishop takes on e2 when king is on d2, then ke6 and the e5 pawn would be lost. This is what white has to avoid. And if the knight is given on a2 or b3, then after bishop a2, b3, bishop keeps control of the e6 square. So this position of bishop and pawn is very useful because both are complementing each other and they are covering all the squares in front of the pawn. That is why it is said that we should place the pawns on the opposite color to that of the bishop, especially the passed pawns. So this position is winning for white. Let's go to the move king c5. Now it looks like the bishop is attacked and knight will get b3 or the d3, one of the squares, to approach the pawn. But white has the strong move e5. He is sacrificing the bishop, and as soon as the bishop is taken, the pawn will be out of the magic square of the king. But that is not all. There are some tricks to be avoided yet. So king takes e4, e6, and now white can be in trouble after the move knight e2 check. So white has to play very precisely over here. Only one move wins for white. All other lines will lead to drawn position. Let's look at the variations one by one. If king g2 or h3, then knight f4 check and the pawn is taken. After the most logical move kg4, usually king is very well placed diagonally one square away from the knight. But here after knight c3, e7, knight d5, pawn is attacked, e8 queens, knight f6 check, and the queen is lost and the game will be drawn. So now that leaves us with some other moves. If king comes to h4, then also knight f4, knight attacks the pawn, forces the pawn to move, and knight g6 check wins the pawn on e7. King f3 allows the move knight d4 check and the e6 pawn is lost. So there are only two more moves left. After kf2, the knight is attacked, but now comes knight c3, e7, knight e4 check, and the knight manages to reach the d6 square. After k, f3, knight d6, king f4, we see that the king is able to protect the knight and knight is controlling the queening square. At the most, white can queen the pawn when knight will be traded for the pawn and the game will be drawn. So the only winning move is king h2, when the king stays away from any knight check or knight fork to the pawn. And now after knight c3, there is just e7, when after knight d5, e8 queens. After the move knight d4 also, there is e7. King has managed to stay away from the dangerous checks. After knight f3 check, just kg3, and we see that the king is away from the range of knight fork here. So knight d4 allows e8 queen, knight g5, knight e5, everything to anything with the pawn queens, and white wins the game. This position was about bishop's domination over knight. I hope you are finding these positions useful. Do like, share and subscribe the channel. Thanks for your time.